This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
In our third chapter, essentially, of discovering God's promises and discovering what it is, not so much studying all of the promises in the Bible, because there are over 8,000 of those, and around 3,500 that really kind of apply, or that we can take and apply in our own life. So there's a lot of promises in the Word of God. So we'd be here for a long, long time if we studied all of those. But I want us to study, the whole purpose of the study was to take a look at how do you take those promises and begin to apply them in your life. How do you take promises from the Word of God and make them connect with your life? And so today we're taking a look at a rather interesting study about Abraham, and specifically with his son Isaac, who was the result of the promise of God, the immediate result of the promise of God. Remember Abraham and Sarah, who could not have children. Now Isaac comes along, they get pregnant, and here's Isaac, who is an answer, a response to the promise that God had made to them. So here we are in Genesis chapter 22, beginning with verse 1. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham, here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about." Early the next morning, Abraham got up and saddled his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac, and when he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." Now this had to have been one of the most traumatic experiences of Abraham's life. He had just recently sent Ishmael and Hagar back to Egypt, which must have broken his heart because he really did love Ishmael. And now a directive from God to sacrifice Isaac, who was at that point his only son. There had to have been all sorts of questions racing through his mind. Did God really tell me to do this? Why would God do such a thing? Would God fulfill his promise only to break it? What about Sarah? What about me? How will I be able to live with this?